Hi everyone, it's Laura here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to share with you a 1 kit 10 cards video featuring the Spellbinders Card Kit of the month. This is a monthly subscription kit and I will have all the information and all the links in the description box down below, but now let's get started. For my first card, I started by cutting the TU cardstock that's included in the kit. I am now cutting it to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, but I will end up trimming it down to 4 by 5 1/4 inches. I then took a strip of one of the floral designs in the pattern paper, which is also part of the kit, and I cut it to a strip that is about 1.5 inches wide. I taped it down to my card base and I trimmed off the excess. And for this video, I'll be trying as hard as I can to only use supplies for the kit to show you that you really can create a lot of projects using this subscription kit by Spellbinders. Here I decided that I had too much teal going on my card base, and so I decided to introduce a little bit of this cream color. I cut the panel to 4 by 5 1/4 inches, and then I added some double-sided tape, which is also part of the kit, on the back of the strip that I had cut with the teal and the design paper, and I adhered it to the left portion of my card panel. I adhered everything to my card base, trying to get an even spacing all around. And then to decorate the card, I decided to use some of these butterflies. These are part of the 3D stickers set, also in the Spellbinders kit of the month. This is the May 2019 kit, if I haven't said that already. I used one of the die cuts to create my sentiment. This one is pink and it has the sentiment which is foiled, so it adds a very nice detail to the card. And the sentiment reads, "Beauty surrounds us," and I thought it was really perfect to go with these butterflies and the gorgeous design paper with the florals. I arranged the butterflies on the card front, and that was it for card number 1. The second card was really simple to put together and it was probably the fastest one I created. I selected these 2 designs from the 6x6 paper pads included in the kit. One has a wood grain pattern and the other one has a beautiful scene. I trimmed the one with the wood planks to 5.5 by 4 1/4 inches, and I'm trimming this down to 5.5 by 3.5 inches because I want to create sort of a central focal panel that goes across my card. If you wanted to save some of that wood grain pattern paper, because most of it is hidden behind the focal panel, you could just cut 2 strips and adhere those on top of your card base. But for the sake of simplicity, I decided to just use the entire panel, and there is anyway another pattern paper with the same design in the paper pad, so I can use that if I want to have it on another card. To add a little bit of an accent to this card, I decided to cut 2 strips out of the foiled cardstock that comes in the kit. I really love this foiled cardstock because I think it works well for masculine cards too, because of the color it has. And it also matches really nicely with the other foiled elements in the kit, like for example that tiny sentiment strip that you can see on the top right of the screen and that I will be using for the sentiment on my card. I am using double-sided tape to adhere the foiled strips to my focal panel, and normally I would probably do this with liquid glue, but I really wanted to try and stick to the supplies in the kit as much as I could, so this is why I used double-sided tape for this task. At this point, all that was left to do was to adhere my focal panel to the wood grain card base, glue down the sentiment to the bottom right portion of the card, and mount it on one of the white A2 card bases that are provided with the kit. And here is card number 2. For my third card, I played around with the die cuts that are provided in the kit, as well as with one of the pattern papers. I started by cutting down the white cardstock that is included with the kit to 4¼ by 5½ inches. And then I trimmed down this pattern paper to a strip that ended up being 1¾ by 5½ inches. I chose this design because of the stripes and also because of the subtle foiled detail it has, which I think already takes the card up a notch. I taped the pattern paper to the left edge of my card panel, and I could have done this directly on one of those pre-cut and pre-scored card bases that come in the kit, but I like to have the extra dimension of gluing your card fronts on your card bases, and this is why I chose to go this way. I then selected a few of the florals and some of the leaves in the die cut sets, as well as a circular panel with the sentiment that you can see to the top right of the screen right now. I arranged the florals and the leaves in a cluster that I kept together with my double-sided tape. Before I could go on, remove the backing of the tape and glue the cluster to my card front. You can see that there is some tape adhesive on the front of the cluster, but that will be hidden behind the die cut with the sentiment. I kept filling up my design with some extra leaves that I added to the top right and the bottom left. And then I decided to pop up the panel with the sentiment over some foam squares. These are also part of the kit, and I decided to raise this panel to make it really the focal point of my card and give it a little bit of emphasis over the busy background. I completed my design with two of the strips from the set of die cuts from the kit, as well as this hexagon with the number 1, which is foiled like the humor part of the sentiment and the pattern paper that I have on the card. Card number 4 is probably one of my favorites from the set of 10 cards that I'm sharing with you today. And to create it, I started by cutting some more design paper. I first trimmed it down to 4¼ by 5½ inches and then cut the top part off at an angle. I mounted it over my teal card base. This is again 4¼ by 5½ inches. And to dress up the design a little bit more, I adhered one strip of foiled cardstock right above the edge of the design paper. I selected a few die cuts from the kit as well as this journaling card, and I started adhering everything to my card base. Again, I popped up the sentiment panel with some of the foam squares that are present in the kit, and I adhered it so that the sentiment is at an angle because I felt that this creates some more interest on the card. And I really love the sentiment on this card. I shared it on my Instagram stories a couple of days ago, and this really makes this card one of my favorites. I used one of the Puffy Stickers butterflies as well as one of the butterfly die cuts. And to add a bit of dimension to the die cut, I taped down the center flush on the card base and I added some foam squares behind its wings. I adhered everything to one of the card bases in the kit, and that finished off card number 4. For card number 5, I used the stamp set that's included in the kit, and I started by stamping the bear as well as the sentiment on the white cardstock that is also part of the kit, using some black ink from my stash. I also stamped the party hat as well as the balloon on some more white cardstock as well as on some teal cardstock, because I wanted to create a paper piecing effect that would look like as if those were die cuts. So I first cut the balloon and the party hat that I have stamped on my white cardstock, leaving a white border all around. And then I cut those same shapes out of the teal cardstock, but this time leaving no border. And then I glued the teal shapes right on top of the white ones, and I created my elements this way. I also fussy cut the bear, leaving a white border around it, and I trimmed down one of the pattern papers from the kit to a size that would fit behind the chipboard that you see on screen. I am using the design of the paper to create a focal point around my bear, because the lines that are in the paper draw the eye towards the bear itself. And then I glued that behind the chipboard, and you saw that that is a sticker actually. At this point I moved on and started creating my card base. I trimmed down some black cardstock to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches and this floral pattern paper to 4 by 5 1/4 inches. The chipboard will be the focal point on my card, and I also trimmed down a strip out of that woodgrain pattern paper that I used on card number 2 to create a little bit more interest on my card base. I used one of the dies in the kit to cut that off-white cardstock also from the kit, and I created some leaves that I will glue down behind the chipboard. I first layered the pattern paper over the black cardstock and then adhered the wood grain strip on the top third of my card base. I arranged my die-cut leaves behind the focal panel, clustering them on 2 opposite corners, so the top left and the bottom right corner of my panel. I also had already adhered the party hat on the bear's head. And then for the balloon, I glued it behind its paw and I added one foam square just behind the balloon, not behind the string, to create some dimension. I used this foiled smile die cut for the sentiment, and that finished off card number 5. Card number 6 is very quick and easy to put together. I started by die cutting some teal and grey cardstock using the dies included in the kit. I also trimmed down this pattern paper with the foiled polka dots to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and I decided that the focal panel on this card would be this die cut with this great sentiment that reads, "The good things in life are better with you." I played around with the arrangement of all the elements, and once I had an idea of where I wanted everything to go, I started to glue everything down to my card base. Here I'm using some Tonic Studios Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to glue down this die cut on top of the flower base. I used the same liquid glue to glue down the leaves as well as the flower itself onto my card base. And then to create a little bit more interest on this card, I decided to raise the focal panel with the sentiment using some of the foam squares in the kit. I adhered it at an angle, slightly overlapping the flower, because I thought this would add some interest to the design. And then I added some decorations with some of the stickers that are in the 3D stickers set with the butterflies. So under each 3D butterfly you can also find a 1D sticker. And then I added this foiled smile sentiment to the top right of the card, as well as 2 of the black sequins from the kit to the bottom left. And this finishes up card number 6. Card number 7 is a very clean and simple card, but is one of my favorites because I really loved the style of these light bulbs. For this card, I layered some pattern paper, 2 foiled strips and some white cardstock, and then I glued 3 of the light bulbs and I drew some vertical lines with a black marker and my T-square ruler to make it look as if the light bulbs are hanging from the ceiling. I used the die that cuts the word smile from the kit to die cut some foiled cardstock, and I glued that to the bottom portion of my card front. I mounted everything on a pre-scored card base using again the double-sided tape in the kit. And I have to say that I was pretty impressed with the amount of mileage I got out of this double-sided tape roll. I used it almost on every single card and I ran out of it just at the very end of the card making process. Card number 8 is another one that I really loved the way it turned out. I started by adhering some cream cardstock cut at 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches on a card base. And then I layered it with a strip of that green and white pattern paper with the foiled detail. The basic designs on today's card might look quite similar to one another, but this is because I really tried to challenge myself not to use anything apart from what's in the kit. But if you were to include any dies you have in your stash, you could come up with even more designs. Anyway, for this card here, I also just used die cuts and the journaling cards, and I arranged them on my card front, trying to create some interest around that journaling card that I have in the center. I used this brave, fearless and free sentiment, which I thought would match really well with one of the butterflies in the 3D stickers. I decided to use 2 in the end, so I glued the larger one in the center of the card and the smaller one on the bottom left part of the card. And to fill up the top right portion of the card, I used this black sequins, which I glued down with my Nuvo glue. And here is card number 8. Card number 9 is a more masculine design, and I have to confess that my original plan was to make 5 cards with this kit, but honestly I liked it so much that I couldn't stop. So I went ahead and created 10 because you have 10 card bases in the kit, so that was sort of the point where I had to stop. But I have so much more supplies that I am left with and that I can use on future cards, and I will show that to you at the end of the video. But for this card I layered again 2 pattern papers from the Stay Wild paper pad included in the kit. I cut one to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches and the one with the florals to 4 by 5 1/4 inches. I am now using what's left of that pad with the little foam squares to raise this journaling card above my card base. And then I selected a few die cuts and I'm gluing them to create a cluster on that journaling card panel. I decided to raise the radio as well on some foam tape to make it the focal image on this card. I used one of the sentiment strips that are included in the kit. And by the way, if you didn't know, you can not only subscribe to the monthly subscription kit on the Spellbinders store, but there are also some add-ons that you can buy separately. So even if you don't have the Card Keep subscription, you can create a lot of the cards that I am showing today using those add-ons, and I will have them linked in the description box down below. For my 10th and final card, I used again the bear in the Stay Wild stamp set. I stamped it on some grey cardstock and I fussy cut it using my IK Success Cutter B scissors. I am cutting right around the edge because I don't want any border around my image. And then I decided to add some details with a white gel pen. So what I'm doing is I am going over the lines that I have stamped with the white gel pen, but I'm not actually going right above the lines, but just slightly to the left, so that I create a little bit more interest and I don't completely erase the stamped lines. And this, by the way, is a Sakura Jelly Roll pen number 10. I used again this gorgeous paper with the landscape. This is one of my favorite designs from the Stay Wild paper pad, and I adhered it behind one of the chipboard frames. And I did this because I wanted to create a travel-inspired card, and this element would look like a picture on my card. I trimmed down another design using my guillotine trimmer and I trimmed it directly to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And here, because I ran out of double-sided adhesive, I used Nuvo glue to glue the pattern paper on my card base. I created a strip using more pattern paper from that same Stay Wild paper pad, and I glued that at an angle over my card base. I adhered my picture frame straight, slightly offset towards the top of the card, and then I decorated it with these die cuts that I obtained by die cutting the foiled cardstock in the kit with one of the dies also part of the kit. I'm gluing one on the top and one on the bottom of the picture frame, and I'm trying to align them as best as I can, centering them with respect to the picture frame. But I'm not being too precise, I'm kind of eyeballing this because I will have so many more elements going on this card that even if these are not perfectly centered, I don't think you would be able to tell anyway. I raised those suitcases over some foam squares, or rather, whatever was left of the foam square pad. I adhered the camera to the top right of the card and the sentiment "Beauty surrounds us" to the bottom left. I raised my main sentiment panel with some foam tape and slightly overlapped it with the suitcases to create some interest. I adhered the bear, again slightly overlapping it with the picture frame, and then to balance the design I also added one of the tickets that are part of the die cut set. And that finished off my 10th and last card for today. And now I wanted to show them to you all at once. I really liked this kit and I had so much fun creating with it. I will have a link to it in the description box down below in case you want to subscribe. Again, this is a monthly subscription kit. And also to the add-ons to the kit that you can purchase even if you're not subscribed. I also wanted to show you all the supplies I'm left with and that I can use to create many more cards. And because this was my very first 1 kit 10 cards video, I would love for you to let me know what you thought about it. I have also shared an unboxing video for this kit, and I would like to know if you'd prefer that I showed everything in one video, so unboxing and inspiration, or if you're fine with them being 2 separate videos. And finally, please let me know if this video was too long for you and if you would rather me share fewer cards but shorter videos in the future. So please let me know the answers to these questions in the comments down below, and I'll catch you guys soon with the next video. Ciao!